I'm Terrell.
I'm Tiara Leanne.
And I'm Tawan.
And you're about to be
Rewired.
So today we're going to be talking about mental health, what it is and what it's not, in attempts to kind of confront some of the stigma and meet people where they are.
That's what's up. I don't want to stop you. I don't want to interrupt you, but I think this is a great opportunity to tell everybody what stigma is. Like, what does stigma mean?
Okay, so to me, what a stigma is just like a common misconception that people think about a certain thing, but it's one that gives you a negative feeling about that thing, so much so that you avoid that thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like for instance, I was just telling somebody, like the stigma around foreign cars is that they look nice, but they're really high on the maintenance.
Yeah.
Right.
Or, if something breaks, it's going to be real expensive to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that is true, but some of that is not true. And the more you educate yourself on the topic, you realize that there are some luxury cars that ain't so bad on maintenance.
Yeah.
That you should not really avoid because you're scared of maintenance, because what's that? That's just a stigma. It's
Right.
not, based in truth.
You gotta find out for yourself.
Exactly.
That's
It's
my
an
advice.
overgeneralization, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, well, I think that the overgeneralization comes from a lack of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the biggest things. So my main charge is to go through some vocabulary words today. So that we not mixing up the words psychologist with the words therapist, with the word psychiatrist, with a life coach, with a mentor, with a counselor. Because all these people are different. They have different levels of expertise, different levels of experience, and different levels of education. Right?
Definitely.
So
Tiara Leanne, have you experienced any stigmas? Any people thinking that mental health is something that it ain't?
Oh yes, like I was telling you, I feel like a lot of people they have a misconception when it comes to mental health and mental illness. They kind of put both of those vocabulary words together when mental health is just basically the same thing as physical health. It's just your emotional and psychological well-being, just like your physical health is just your physical well-being.
And I'm glad you brought it up like that, because that segued me right into what it is and what it ain't.
Exactly.
Before we, I guess, get into the vocabulary words, I think we would cut out a lot of the stigma if we just thought about mental health the same way as we think about physical health.
Exactly.
Like when I say I had a person who inadvertently, I think, started to kind of dump on me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Emotionally,
that
like
happened.
heard that I was a mental health therapist, and before they knew it, they
told
was
you.
dumping on my ass, and I was feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I said, maybe you need to seek professional help.
Yeah.
Not from a place of malice or I was mad or upset. It was just like a support thing. And that person got mad, was offended.
How do you deal with conflict of interest? So when you are in those situations, because I've been in those situations too, and it's just like, you never know when a person's about to move in and dump on you. You don't know. So it's like as soon as you say those words, because sometimes I keep it to myself. I don't like to even tell people what I do sometimes. But in those situations, how do you draw those
Redirect that
boundaries?
thing?
Yeah.
Man, it's definitely hard. I'm going to be honest. I had to grow to this point.
Yeah.
Because initially, your initial reaction is to try to meet them where they at. Maybe even link them up with somebody or shoot a phone number to them or something. But now I straight up tell them, like, I had a long day. I'm super drained. We can talk about this at a better, a different time. But if you really want to go into depth and get this issue addressed thoroughly, you need to sign up for therapy.
Let me chime in on that one right quick. I think one of the major ways to keep that from happening is understand that that's going to happen and be ready for it.
Definitely.
Number one, work on your boundary setting and assertive communication.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
And number two, like, I got a little spiel already ready, because I think, just like Terrell said, I think that people really don't give mental health the same respect that they give physical health.
Exactly.
So when somebody meet me, they automatically think I'm about to start working on them free of charge.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
don't do that psychology stuff on me. Don't be analyzing me.
Right.
Don't diagnose me.
But if
Please
is this
believe.
what you really want, though? So
Yeah.
be ready. When you ask me for my advice, I'm coming straight full throttle on a professional level.
Okay, but when you ask me for my advice, I'm not giving it to you until you pay me. I'm like anybody else. I don't work off the clock. So if I am diagnosing you and doing the psychology stuff on you and trying to help you to figure out a different way to think about those things, please believe I have been paid to do just that.
I get freebies all the time, though.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that it's kind of just built into our personalities to do certain things. But if I'm consciously doing facilitating a therapy session on you, and I've prepared and I've pick and choose my words super carefully in order not to offend you, please believe I'm being paid to do so.
So y'all know now. Sawan wants that coin, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have to go on and sign up for that too.
He wants that coin.
Because I think what it is, and I know that it may be some gender differences.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I can't really see a dude hitting you with that, I guess, as much as girls would say that to one of us. It's like, I think when a man communicates his thoughts and feelings, is looked at as atypical. So the reaction is, what exactly are you trying to do? You know what I'm saying? Are you think I'm one of your clients? No, I'm actually trying to communicate with you like you asked me to. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I got to sign up for that same concept where if it's any indecision in your mind, whether this dude is doing therapy on me right now or not, if you haven't cut me no checks, you ain't planning on doing it, then you can rest assured we just having a conversation.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep, so let me get into these definitions real quick.
All right, let's go.
Now, the first definition I want to clear up is the definition of psychologist. Because my own grandmama called me a psychologist at church. I'm not a psychologist, man. A psychologist.
Yeah, everybody in the church wrong.
Everybody gave me a little standing ovation, too. I didn't deserve it. I'm not a psychologist.
Oh, my God.
You deserved it, bro. You deserved it, but you just,
just not for that.
Mixed up of terminology.
Just not for that particular thing. But a psychologist is a doctoral level professional who mainly does full psychological reports and testing. And one of the biggest things that differentiated the psychologist for a long time is the fact that they could give a verified diagnosis, which is not really a differentiating thing anymore, because now fully licensed therapists can also give a verified diagnosis.
Well, let's educate what a diagnosis is, because a lot of people think that they can just diagnose others
or themselves.
You have to be a paid professional to say this person right here qualifies for this diagnosis. This person qualifies for that diagnosis, and it's a list of criteria. It's got to be a certain number of traits for a certain length of time.
Definitely.
It ain't one thing you do make you this.
Yeah, just because your girlfriend or your boyfriend is getting on your nerves, you can't go home and say you bipolar.
Definitely.
It's criteria for that.
Well, a lot of times I hear people say, too, I'm OCD. Like, why do you say that?
People
Who
that's
diagnosed you with
OCD
that?
don't think they OCD.
And they don't want to
think
be.
That's
They not
completely
gonna-
normal.
Yeah, definitely.
But some of them know that they OCD. But most people that haven't been seen by a professional that qualify for that diagnosis don't sit up and think, oh yeah, I'm OCD.
Right. So just because you're a clean person don't mean you have OCD.
Definitely. My next vocab word is psychiatrist. Not to be confused with a psychologist. A psychiatrist is a doctoral level person who prescribes psychotropic medications. So if you have somebody who is taking Adderall or Concerta from a doctor because they have ADD or ADHD, they have been prescribed those meds by a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Psychiatrist, not a psychologist and not a therapist.
Definitely. How do you know a psychiatrist from a psychologist from a layman's standpoint?
It's very simple. From a layman's standpoint, the psychologist is doing paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
The psychiatrist is a doctor that's giving you meds.
Meds for the psychiatrist.
Meds for the psychiatrist.
Definitely.
And then the therapist, that's what we are. We therapists. So that's a master's level professional who has studied under another licensed person in order to get a license themselves in order to facilitate family and individual therapy services.
Let me back up real quick. Back to one thing that we talked about, the credibility of the mental health profession in general.
Yeah.
I think if people was exposed to the process more of how you kind of graduate through it's levels to everything. You know what I'm saying? You graduate through the levels until you get to a certain level. I think if they was exposed to that process, then the credibility would be.
Well, how about we break it down then?
That's
Tell
what-
y'all process. How did y'all become licensed therapists? And I'm gonna tell y'all how I became one.
Okay, so I graduated from high school, right? Went to college, chose my major, went through that 4-year process.
What was your major?
Psychology.
Okay.
So as a therapist, you can be a psychology major. That's most of them. I think sociology is a accepted major, and then social work, right? So you get your 4-year degree. Then you go back to school, enter into graduate school. That process, the actual class process, takes about 2.5, 3 years. And then you have to, pass a test to get out of graduate school. Then you do, I think it's 400 hours of supervised service.
Yeah.
So that might take you about 2 or 3 years where you are what's considered master's level but associate license. And you don't have a full licensure until you go back, pass another test, and you submit your hours that says I practiced under this person for this amount of time, and that person signed off on my work and says that I'm credible and competent, and now I'm fully licensed after the board of trustees view all of that and say, okay, he good. So with that being said, if you're a fully licensed therapist and you all the way up there to where you got a license to protect, you don't interact with people or enter into unofficial therapeutic relationships with people because you got a license to protect. Like you went through a lot to do this the legit way. You ain't a shade tree mechanic that just know how to change oil. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you could pull up on him at the house with your brakes in your hand with no schedule, and he gonna put his sandwich to the side.
I said that too because I know it's a lot of people out here. Like, really, our field is predominantly what? Women. Women.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wanted you to break that down because it's not a lot of male therapists, and a lot of people may see you guys or see other people and they wonder like, how do you do that? So that's why I was telling you to kind of break it down and elaborate on that, because just in case anybody is interested, young people who are in high school or college, you think about being a therapist, those are the steps. Me personally, I am a social worker. I was a social work major, which you are qualified to be a therapist on that level if if you're in that field of study. I think it's psychology, sociology,
social work. I think criminal justice too. Criminal justice. I think.
Any of those related fields. If you're under a psychologist or a license, which these two buddies are, you can be a therapist. So anybody out there that aspires to be a therapist, go ahead and do it. It's not easy,
but it's doable.
But it's worth it.
And I think one thing this is a little bit off the subject, but kind of on what you were saying about the process is, this is one of the things you can't rush. You know what I'm saying? This ain't no, weekend certification thing. This is something that's going to take some time. It's going to take some buy-in. It's going to take a full investment, and it's not a gig. It's not a hustle. It's not a job. It's a career. Either you in it or you ain't in it. You know what I'm saying? So
either you got it or you don't.
Exactly. So that actually reminds me of something somebody asked me that spoke to the fact that the vast majority of people don't understand the investment that it takes.
Right.
They don't understand what mental health is and what it's not.
They don't put enough respect on mental health.
Please put some respect on our name. Please.
Okay.
But I had this chick was like, yeah, you a mental health therapist? I was like, yeah. She was like, you do that full time? And I was like, wow. Not that I was like, offended, but it just spoke to the way people think about mental health. Like it's just something, it's a misconception, a stigma.
Your therapist is just as important as your dentist, your doctor, your massage therapist, all of that, your fitness coach. Your therapist is up there, really. Like,
yeah, and it's funny, and it's back to that stigma thing. I think it's a minority thing.
It is.
That really kind of devalues the therapist's role.
Yeah.
Because we want to substitute so many different people in the community for their therapist.
Yeah.
Church.
They want to go. Church is great. I love church. I'm not saying nothing bad about church.
Right.
But it's a difference between a pastor and a therapist.
Yeah. And too, I was going to tell a little personal story on that. It's so funny that we own that because I feel like a lot of times in our community we feel like we have to choose between spirituality and therapy. You know what I'm saying? It's not a situation where you have to choose. I feel like you need both.
You definitely
Because at the end of the day, just like what's written in the Bible, faith without works is dead. So if you just having faith and you just praying and you ain't willing to put your feet to the street and put no action to it, put any type of effort into it, then you know what I'm saying, then you're not, your efforts are wasted. You know what I'm saying? Like I had one client, he was in a bad place. He sent a bomb threat to his school, number one. You know what I'm saying? He was always in trouble. He had issues with authority. He had issues with structure. He had issues with maintaining attention. So anyway, he was in a bad situation, juvenile court system.
Oh, okay.
So an older black lady moved next to him, started praying for him, rubbing holy oil all on his head and telling him not to see me.
No.
And then she prayed for him, and through God, he healed. You know what I mean?
See.
And I'm not saying that he shouldn't be spiritual or she was leading him in the wrong direction, but she definitely cut off some of his resources.
Exactly.
Because you know what he was doing? Going up to the school doing the same stuff with oil on his head. The only thing different is because he had oil on his head.
But that's what I was going to say. I was going to say it's the lack of resources. I feel like people don't look at mental health and, from the eye of it being a stigma. They look at it from the eye of not really having that resource. You get what I'm saying? So if you don't have access to this resource, you're really ignorant to the fact of how it can benefit you. You get what I'm saying? I see people talk about mental health all the time or talk about therapy, and they don't even really know how it works. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know the facts behind things and how beneficial it is to you and your well-being. Like,
what things do you think most people think about a therapy session that's not necessarily true?
I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Oh, you want me to see a therapist? I'm not crazy. I'm not this. I don't need nobody telling me what to do. Yeah. Especially, I feel like
my business.
Yeah, I don't need to tell nobody my business. Or I went when I was younger and it didn't work for me. And let me tell you this: just because you went to therapy when you were younger, therapy is totally different from a child than from an adult. Especially when when you're living with real life situations, and over the time you just collecting all this trauma, you putting all your mind is like a trash can. You know what I'm saying? So you're filling your mind up. The older you get, it's just more and more trash. There's more and more things that's going on. So by the time you become an adult, you may have looked at that experience when you was a child like, well, I didn't have the best of experience at therapy, or maybe you was mandated, maybe it was your school. Like you said, it's different type of therapists. Yeah. You have school counselors, and you have therapists. You have licensed professionals that are fully trained to give you the information you need to make healthy choices. That's all therapy is. Someone there to tell you. It's like an angel. You know how you have one side where it's like the devil telling you to do all the bad stuff, F a mug up, all that. Then you got this side of you. No, then you got this side, the angel that's like, don't do it. Stay calm, breathe. That's what your therapist is. It's like having an angel, really.
And that's perfect the way you put that, because I was thinking, like you said, we don't, like, I don't need nobody telling me what to do.
Right.
I get that a lot. We don't tell you what to do.
We just
I would
remind
never
you.
tell you what to do.
It's very non-directive. It's what we call client-centered. So it's based on the things that the patient or the client wants to work on. It's not about the therapist and what I want you to change, because it's not about me. Like, we came in here to help you see things differently. And an analogy I like to use, and like Tierra said, if you had therapy as a kid and it didn't work out for you, or you had therapy as an adult and it didn't work out for you, it's just like any other relationship with any other person. You and that therapist might not have been a good fit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because therapy to me is like having different pair of glasses, to where you get to look. Just say you have something wrong with your eyes and you don't know what your prescription is.
Right.
And you get to try on 10 different pair of glasses until you can make out the images.
Exactly.
Once you find that glass, once you find that person who can show it to you and give you a different perspective and let you see it more clearly, then that's your therapist. That's the person that you formulate that therapeutic relationship with.
Right.
Definitely. Let me hit on that one that's huge that you said first, about it meaning you crazy, right? And that's something that's huge in our community, and I want to really take some time to confront that directly. So if the assumption that everybody can kind of like latch on to and agree with is that everybody got strengths and weaknesses, right?
Right.
Nobody on this earth is perfect. We can all agree on that, right? So you got this unperfect person here. You got this unperfect person here. This unperfect person goes to address the things that they see as issues.
Right.
This unperfect person just want to stay how they are.
Right.
Which one of those two people is better in terms of their approach to society? You know what I'm saying? If you acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses and try to go get help on them, does that mean you crazy? Or does that mean that the person that know that they messed up and ain't gonna go get no help, that's the crazy one to me.
Right.
To me, if I had to choose who was crazy, it wouldn't be the person that acknowledges their weaknesses and try to get better
And
at them.
take a proactive role.
Exactly. And in our culture, we got to learn now. A lot of people have been doing this for years. They've been going to therapy. Other races, white, Chinese, they've been going to therapy. Like I said, we lacked those resources in our community for the longest, or we looked at those stigmas. We looked at it as a stigma, so it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. Instead of taking advantage of it, it's all type of programs out there, different type of health insurance companies that will help you get a therapist. It's really not hard at all.
Yeah.
If you have insurance, Medicaid, CareSource, AmeriGroup, WellCare, you can get a therapist. Just like you can go look for a dentist, you can go look for somebody to give you surgery for your body and your lips and all that. You can find a therapist that can help you make the right decisions in life. And like he said, it's not about you feeling like you have to be crazy. It's actually a smart thing to do, an intelligent thing to do, to seek therapy, especially if you feel like, okay, something is off. I have an addiction that I know that this is wrong. I need to fix this. You know, I have anger issues. I'm having problems with PTSD. I'm having problems with trauma. You know what I'm saying? I can't quite balance this. And that's okay, because we all have been in those shoes.
Definitely. And just to kind of take it off of a who's at fault type of scenario, I think the mistrust of these systems and the organized approaches to treatment in our communities is warranted. Like, you know, minorities don't trust outside sources of information, which is understandable. Which is the reason why I would advocate for you to go find somebody that you identify with, that you don't feel like is an outside source.
Definitely.
Go, and I'm not saying they got to be the same nationality as you, same gender as you, same race as you, whatever, but just go find somebody that you feel like is playing for the same team you playing for.
Exactly.
That way you don't feel like you taking information from somebody who can't identify with your struggle.
Right, because different therapists have different skill sets. a lot of people, they specialize in different things, you know. They may be an anger management specialist. They may specialize in domestic violence. They may specialize in addiction. They may have battle with suicide. You know, so you got to pick who is suitable for you. And I feel like once people do that, they will see your life will change, like, drastically. Trust me on that.
Definitely. The last thing I want to see too, and I think we've moved to the point now where we have allowed the mental health process to come into our lives. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So once we have allowed the mental health process to come into our life, I think one thing that we need to do is not hide behind the diagnosis. Like once you do get a diagnosis, or once you do seek therapy, and they say, hey, you depressed, then it's time for you to work.
Yeah.
It's time for you to do some things, like for depression specifically, one of the treatments is to be more social and to take on more social responsibility.
Right.
And I think I see a lot of people, once they get a diagnosis, they lean on their diagnosis as if it's okay for me to act sad because I'm depressed. It's okay for me to have mood swings because I got.
And the big one is isolation. People feel like when they're depressed, I don't want to talk to nobody.
Yeah.
Like, that's danger zone right there.
Definitely. Or they'll say, I got anger issues. Like, that's fine. And you know you got anger issues. So you have a greater responsibility
to make sure you don't act out.
Exactly. Like you said, to take a proactive role in helping to reach your goals and become a normal functioning member of society.
Definitely. And I mean, to the therapist, any therapist that might be watching it, I take a personal charge to confront the stigma that is related to mental health. For one reason, I'm a person too. Like, I just met somebody in the community, asked me what I did for a living. I was dressed similar to the way I am now. I had my grill in and everything. I said, I'm a mental health therapist. And she said, oh, mental health therapists dress like that? Oh, they wear grills? I said, this one do.
Ooh,
and I'm not at work right now,
Speak
so
on it.
I wouldn't wear this to a session.
Exactly.
But please, therapists, back me up. Let these people know we real people. You know what I'm saying? We don't just, look like this all the time. We don't wake up in the morning and drink therapy juice and eat therapy breakfast. You know what I'm saying?
We don't
Like,
have no special coat we put on. We just get up, we get dressed, and I mean, a part of being a therapist is self-care, so of course we're going to look good and feel good. Hello?
Definitely. And I was telling her, like, hey, I don't want you to look at a therapist on a pedestal like that they can't do and say and be some of the places you like to be. That's what's preventing you from going to therapy, because you think it's that big of a deal. It's really not. It's a conversation between two people.
And I tell my clients that too. Like, I have younger clients, and I see their reaction to me when I'm dressed up professionally versus when I'm kind of like chill and I'm just relaxed. A lot of times, honestly, my clients open up more when I'm more relaxed. When I'm more looking relatable. When I'm dressed a little more urban, so I noticed that, and I had to stop doing that whole little spiffy look, because that can be intimidating sometimes, especially when you are reaching out to people who look like us. You want to be able to reach them.
Too?
Yeah, they don't want to be looking at you like you're a probation officer, and I tell them all the time, I'm here for you. Like, okay. Noted. Next time I come, let me wear my gym shoes. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in to us. Make sure you guys stay tuned and continue to look for more videos on Fridays. Our Instagram page is Rewired Podcast _ and our YouTube is Rewired 2020. I'm Tiara.
I'm Terrell.
And I'm Tawan.
And you have been
Rewired.